All right, everyone, going to be breaking down the Monday night showdown slate on DraftKings between the Dallas Cowboys and the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, as always, I like to start out with the ODDSJAM Sportsbook screen. I feel like it's a very good starting point. If you guys are someone that does live betting, we can see that these lines are updating live. You guys can tell when I'm recording as well. But we can see this game is a 1.5 point spread, okay, with an over and under of 51. So this on paper is literally the best game that we have gotten all week. Let's hope it lives up to that hype, right? Especially these, the Dallas Cowboys, for one, have been terrible for primetime games, but really all these primetime games have been a little bit brutal to watch lately. In terms of injury situations that we need to watch out for, this is one that popped up, okay? Joshua Palmer, currently questionable with a groin injury. And groin injuries are typically things that you can play through, but I do expect it to be something that could hinder his production. And that's obviously going to be a worry. And so maybe that does bring up some other decent plays, mostly just Johnston, or maybe they do a little bit more two tight end sets. Maybe we see Austin Eckler actually get involved a little bit more in the passing game. That is something I don't know right now what the severity of his groin injury is. We should get more information on that tomorrow. Thing that you can do to better yourself DFS wise, fantasy sports wise, is listen to the pregame coverage. Obviously, with it being a primetime game, they'll typically tell us what's going to happen without telling us what's going to happen a lot of the time. Looking at the Dallas Cowboys, nothing too crazy in terms of like DFS plays that we need to be going in on. It's pretty straightforward there. So looking at this game, I do want to start out with Davis here. I like the price tag, and I just want to point out if Josh Palmer is actually maybe ruled out, or we can see he's actually going to be banged up and hindered by his production, he would be the next logical option to get playing time. And so it's a little bit of we need to wait on the news, but if we get news that Palmer is going to be limited, I actually think Davis would be a pretty great value play. We have seen a few design plays go to him. Now, he did fumble in the last game, but we have seen a few design plays go to him. And as we know, showdown slates, finding value like that, where we know we're not going to get a zero, can be huge. And so he's a play that I don't mind. And I also want to point out Stone Smart. He is someone that has been a little bit more involved in this offense, getting a little bit more playing time. Hasn't been used in the passing game too much, but you never know coming off of a bye week. He's going to be someone that's going to be 1% owned if you want to be on him at 5%, hopefully, hoping to get lucky. I'm okay with that. But we know for the most part, it's going to be Gerald Everett, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, Justin Herbert. Those are going to be the players that we want to be on for them. So looking at it, it's probably going to be as simple as Austin Eckler we're going to play. He's coming in off of being banged up. He's going to be well rested. Okay. I think if it was like them fighting for a playoff spot or the playoffs, he literally probably wouldn't have missed a game, or maybe would have missed one game, but they were being cautious with him. It's a long season. It made sense. And they had a bye week. It kind of just made sense. So then from there, do you want to go Justin Herbert, who's just throwing the football a ton, minus that game against the Raiders? But previous games, 47, 41, 33, kind of strange there, but he still was able to get 20 DraftKings points. He was still able to get 20 DraftKings points in this game as well. So the production is going to be there regardless. If this game plays out the way that Vegas sees it playing out, high scoring game, close game, Justin Herbert should be a lock to get 20 DraftKings points. Then the question becomes, Keenan Allen struggled in his last game. And I'm wondering if that was a little bit due to, game flow, but also because Mike Williams was out. They were able to kind of scheme defensively against him. Obviously, with Austin Eckler being in there, that's a whole nother added element. You might try to scheme to take one of them away. I think it's going to be Keenan Allen. And so with that, it does kind of feel like we're choosing between Keenan Allen or Joshua Palmer. That being said, I do have a sneaky suspicion that Johnston is going to be a little bit more involved in the offense coming in off of a bye. You talk about why the Chargers drafted him, really, or drafted a receiver, I should say. It's for this exact reason. They've been banged up at the receiver position. It's like the same thing every single year with the Chargers. Hopeful for a really good season, losing close games, your star players get injured, lack of depth hurts you. And we've seen that at the receiver position a lot with him. So I thought the draft pick made sense. He actually is kind of a Mike Williams type player. It'd be interested to see if Kellen Moore decides to play him out of the slot like they did with Mike Williams at the start of the season. I doubt it. I think it's going to be Josh Palmer. But in terms of who's going to see the biggest bump in production if Josh Palmer is limited or out, it would be Johnston. If Josh Palmer is going to play, if we're not worrying about it, this just popped up on the injury news, I do think I would want to go Palmer, but it does seem like we're going Justin Herbert, Eckler, Palmer, or we're going Justin Herbert, Palmer, Keenan. That's kind of how it feels, just with how the slate's going to break down. We look at the Dallas Cowboys, and I feel like they're a little bit easier, especially considering the pricing. We can get Jake Ferguson at 5.2. I think that's a very good price tag for him. He is someone that I do think is going to be a little bit more involved in the offense. I'm expecting him to get about 70% of the snaps in this game, with him getting at least 5 targets. His over and under for receptions is at 3.5. His His over and under for receiving yards is set at 35.5. So, it's around 7 DraftKings points. And at this price tag, I think we can take that. I'm perfectly fine with that. That being said, Michael Gallup saw his most snaps last week. Now, it was a blowout. Basically, all their games have been blowouts. Like, the Cowboys are so hard to know what they're going to do. Like, the best game that we have in terms of like sample size, in terms of game being close, is this Cardinals game. And they really got blown out in that game as well. The Cowboys did. They have not played a close game. We do not really know who the Dallas Cowboys are. It's strange to say, but they have not had a close game. So it's difficult to say what the expectations should be, but I will say Michael Gallup at this price tag, playing more snaps last week and assuming that he's going to play about 65% of the snaps, that is something that does interest me. Now, we did see that kind of come at the expense of Brandon Cooks, who Cooks is higher priced than him. It makes sense. You would almost assume he's due for a big game. Like, the fact that he hasn't had like some sort of big splash play is kind of shocking at this point, because you look at someone like Turpin, who we're not playing, but he's someone that has made at least one big splash play. Then I think some people might actually be looking at Jalen Tolbert. We look at the snaps, they are casually going up, but once again, we do not have a good idea of playing time. Like, we can look at this Arizona Cardinals game, which was kind of their closest game, and I would say this is kind of what the expectation should be. Maybe 80% of the snaps for Pollard. CeeDee Lamb's going to be someone we are definitely looking to play, as well as Dak. But I think like this is kind of what we're looking at. And in terms of value, I knew Luke Schumacher didn't really do much in the last game. And I'm not saying you have to play him in this game either. But with paying Henry to shut out, like, Luke Schumacher is going to be the player that's playing in 12 personnel. We know that they like to rotate their tight ends. The reason why you'd be playing him, and I said this in the last game, is that you're hoping for this one target being an end zone target, being like kind of a design play to the backup tight end. Is it likely to happen? Heck no, right? That's why he's priced this way. Is it within the realm of possibilities? Sure. Is that going to be enough to win you a GPP? Probably not, but you never know. And so the biggest issue that we have on this slate is that it's the first slate in a while, showdown-wise, where we don't have clear and obvious value, and we really need to jam the studs. We haven't had a slate like that in quite a while. And so to me, I do like the price discount that we're getting on CeeDee Lamb. He hasn't gone off in a while, so we're getting him at a cheaper price tag. Like, he should not be $2,000 different compared to like Josh Palmer. And if you look at like Keenan Allen, like, I don't think there should be that big of a difference there either. Like, CeeDee Lamb is due for a big game if the game is going to stay close like they expect it to. So I do think we want to be fitting Tony Pollard or Dak into our builds as well. This might be a slate in which I really try to get lucky with the captain's pick and go with someone like Gallup and then just play whichever like player that we ended up on. Gerald Everett, I'd be fine with that. Quintez Johnston, I'd be fine with that. Like, I feel like that's kind of the move that we need to make. We know that Lamb, Eckler, Pollard, Herbert, we know that all those players, those studs, are most likely going to be the ones that dominate this slate, but I want to be trying to find ways to fit them all into my builds, right? Because it's supposed to be a high scoring game. We want to be going out of our way to fit those players into our builds. So we got to go about setting up lineups in which giving us that best opportunity. So that's where I like Michael Gallup in the captain spot. You could even go Johnston, who I do think is going to be more involved this week. We have 2.7 left over. You could go Dwaddle. You could go Davis there. There's ways to go about operating the slate that makes sense. But it does almost feel like we're being forced into playing a lot of the Dallas Cowboys just because they're cheaper. And it's much more easy to navigate the slate by playing them rather than it would be to be playing the Chargers players. And so, like, here's another build that I don't love, but I don't hate. It's going to be a give and take for this slate. But that's going to be all for this video. If you guys want to access to some NFL DFS tools as well as some fantasy golf tools, link is in the description below, 9to5sports.com, and it is available for just $10 a month. If you guys want access to that ODDSJAM sportsbook screen as well as all their betting tools, link to that's in the description below. Use the promo code 9to5 to get 25% off when you sign up for their membership. That's going to be all for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give a like and subscribe. Let's have a good slate, and as always, let's keep cashing.